What's happening, coaches and gym owners? Coach Joe here from Varsity House, and I'm here with our media team, Simmons Media, the best media team in the land. And we just got done doing a bunch of interviews on the gym floor, and it makes me, I get a little emotional because we interviewed some of our employees, some of our athletes, and people who've been around the facility for years and years and years. And when I'm sitting here thinking about it, I think about like what it took and what it takes to be a great employee, and all the things that we've done over the years to really inspire and motivate people to want to be professional strength and conditioning coaches. And specifically, I was talking to Adam and Mike. Mike, as most of you know, was our first intern and has been here 16 years. Adam was an intern in 2015 and has been here 10 years. I looked out on the gym floor today, and I have a long time athlete, Alex Plesic, who is our athletic performance director and an amazing coach mentor to so many young athletes, especially the young girls that are here. They really look up to her, as she was a phenomenal softball player all the way through high school and college, and she started training with me when she was 12 years old. And I'll never forget the day when she walked through the doors, and we just happened to be training like a room full of like absolute savage football players, and her and her sister walked through the door as little girls, and I could just see the absolute look of fear and terror on their face as their mom brought them in to train with us. I remember taking them outside and talking to the mom, who's super sweet, and I was like, they're okay, trust me, we're good dudes, just don't worry about the meatheads inside with their shirts off, they're gonna be fine, right? I'll yell at them, ran inside, told all the dudes to put their shirts on. And honestly, like from that moment on, that was kind of like a policy change too at the gym. As soon as we started training a lot of young girls, we made sure that the professionalism of the facility was a little bit different. We still listened to some awful music, and I used to have to, when the girls would come in, I would have to run and change the iPod because it would be something just like god awful terrible, like with the most vulgarity ever. But Alex has been here now almost her whole life, right? She's been with us more years than she hasn't been, right? So it's a great legacy on the part of the business and our ability to attract and develop people. Another one, we were just talking to, Coach Chris Eichler. Chris started training with us in high school. Chris has done some world-class education. He went to Springfield College for exercise science. He did an internship at the University of Minnesota with Cal Dietz. He did an internship at the University in Indiana, had a shot at a job with the Buffalo Bills, and decided to come back home and be close to family, and really wanted to build a career in the private sector. And the first people he called was us, because the time he spent here had impacted him so much that he really wanted to do this. He was injured. He had a really bad injury in high school, and that time he spent working on the industry, working on the injury, working with us as coaches, really sparked that love and that passion to want to help other people. So that makes me super proud as the gym dad here at Varsity House, and the one who's really, kind of got the ball rolling here. But I would be nothing without my team, and it really, when I think about those things, I think about like, what does it take to be a great team member? What are the key characteristics to an A player? And number one, I think, is you have to have a servant mentality. You have to give yourself to something else. You have to be willing to, for lack of a better analogy, fall on the sword for a bigger mission and a team, right? We don't have any lone wolves here. If you want to be a lone wolf, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but you're probably best off opening your own facility, doing your own thing, or just being a guru trainer somewhere on your own. But if you want to be part of a winning team, you have to be a servant leader. You have to spend your entire day thinking about, how can I help the community of clients and the community of my peers and the employees and people around me. And when I look at the people who are succeeding really well within our team, obviously Dan, my business partner for a million years now, most people know, but Dan has given his entire life to strength and helping others become better trainers, better gym owners, better leaders within our business. And now as the CEO of the company, he spends his entire day, how can I get the most and the best out of each employee that we have? How do I put them in the best position to be successful? I look at Mike. Mike lives his life on the gym floor, solving problems for both the team and our clients. He spends his entire day thinking. I was on the phone with Mike last night at 11 o'clock at night, texting back and forth about some stuff we want to do with the team and fun things he thinks we could do as a team this summer to help educate and motivate and inspire the next generation of VH employees, right? Adam's our COO. Adam bounces around from facility to facility, giving himself to every facility leader and trying to solve problems and create a better pathway for them to be successful. So number one is servant leadership. I think if there was anything that I've ever done right in my career, it was drop the ego at the door and say, whatever I know, whatever tools and techniques and top secret training techniques and things like that I have in my tool belt, I'm going to teach you how to do those things. I'm going to teach you to the point where you're going to be better than me so that I don't have to do that no more. Number two, to be a great teammate is to go above and beyond. I say this, to all the gym owners in the business of strength, but you sign a contract, your key responsibilities and accountability sheet, your KRA, and that contract is a contract with you and your employer on this is the work that you'll provide and the service that you'll provide, and this is what we pay you. But everything else that's great in life, all the other bonuses, the opportunities, the accolades, the raises, the free tickets to the Giants game, whatever, you name it, happens outside of that square piece of paper, right? The paper is the contract. That's what we agreed upon. You will do this and we will pay you this. The more, the better, the good comes outside of that square piece of paper. If you are unwilling to do above and beyond, you cannot be a great part of a team. I don't know any leader anywhere on any team who didn't do more first before they got paid. You look at it use the analogy of the NFL. They use the term all the time. You got to outplay your contract, okay? If you want to be a great teammate, you got to outplay your contract, okay? The third thing is ultimate humility, okay? I touched on it before. I think, again, as a big personality, as an A-type leader in a business who owns multiple businesses, who's trained his whole life to be a savage, right? It's real easy to have a big ego, and we see a ton of that in the fitness industry. I think, again, my lack of ego and my want to give and serve and help others started with Dan, then it went to Mike, and then from them it was down the road. To this day, I still hire every single person that comes through the door at Varsity House personally because I know what I'm looking for, and I know that the culture that I want to build is centered around humility. If you are unwilling to give for your teammates, to do the extras, if you're saying to yourself, it's not my job to do X, Y, and Z, you are not a good fit for Team VH. You have to be willing to do more. Nobody wants to work every Saturday. Nobody wants to have to stay late every night. Nobody wants to go and clean the bathrooms, okay? But those are the things we do to run an A+ ship. If you want, the facility is everything, right? Customers walk through the door, they're judging everything you do. And the first impression, how you look, your smile, and the cleanliness of the facility is their first impression. So if you're a coach in a facility and you see gum on the floor, or you see the bathrooms a mess, and you walk out of there and you say, that's not my job, you're a bad fit from the humility standpoint. You got to drop that ego, be willing to do whatever it takes. I have cleaned the bathrooms in every gym I ever worked at. I have folded I have folded towels, stuffed envelopes, right? Sat on the gym floor for hours, covered thousands of Saturday workouts, worked hundreds of thousands of double sessions, right? Before there was work-life balance for Coach Joe and the rest of our team, there was 7 days a week, 10, 12-hour days, 60 to 70 hours a week of training, right? We did that for more than a decade, me personally for about 15 years, and before I started to see the light at the end of the tunnel, so humility is a core factor. Number 4, I would say, was your willingness to learn. You got to be a learner, right? The only separation between me and anybody else in the realm of gym business is things like this that are sitting on my book. Now, this book by Ben Settle happens to be the most expensive book I've ever bought. This book was $650, but the knowledge inside this book will transform your life. When I was a little boy, I had a real tough childhood. I had a real tragedy happen to me when I was little, and I was down. And I remember being in the office. I was 5 years old, just turning 6. I was 5 years old. I was in a lawyer's office, and I remember being in Manhattan in this huge law office, and he had a giant library in the office. And I'm looking around, and I saw this huge library, books on books on books, gorgeous. I can remember it in my head, like beautiful mahogany, like this. I don't even know what this office would cost today. It'd be probably $50,000 a month, right, in rent. It was ginormous, right? Huge successful lawyer, huge successful law firm. And there had been some trouble in my family. There had been some issues, and I remember him kneeling down. His name was Mr. Penn. I don't remember his first name, but I remember it like it was yesterday. This one conversation changed my life. He kneeled down. He said to me, Joey, he's like, if you want to change your life, you got to learn how to read. You got to learn to love to read, and you got to read every day. He said, you see all these books here? I looked around. I mean, literally, when I mean it like a mini New York City library, thousands of books in this man's office. He said, I've read every single one of these books more than once. Some of them I read every year. Some of them I've read a dozen times. He's like, the ones on this shelf over here, they're the ones I make my entire staff read. And it was like 200 books, right? He's like, every one of those books is outlined. I have notebooks on every one of those books. He's like, I've written them out. It's like, I've literally rewritten those books. He's like, everything you ever wanted to learn about anything is in a book. He's like, it is a time warp through somebody's life. You get to take somebody's entire life's work, 30, 50, 100 years of expertise, and condense it into a couple hours of reading. He's like, you have no greater ability to take a time machine through space and time by reading books. And from that day on, I remember going to my mom, I got to get some books. And it was like Tom and Jerry's Christmas and stuff like that, right? But over the years, you see here in my office, I got a big bookshelf. I loan books out. At home, I have hundreds of books in my home office. And I almost wear that with a badge of pride that I read. And now with audiobooks, you have no excuse. You got to be a learner. You got to upskill yourself constantly. You got to apply knowledge. You got to pass knowledge down too. There's no point in me learning stuff. When I learn all the secrets in this book, the next goal is to teach others the secrets and expand the ability of my team and the people around me with the knowledge that I've gained. So you got to be a learner. And last but not least, the last thing that I think it takes to be a great teammate and have longevity in the realm of strength or in any company. This is not just fitness, right? Fitness just happens to be the one industry where, the hours are kind of terrible naturally, right? We do a great job here trying to give people specific shifts to, give them honed in on a real, let's call it scalable lifestyle, within the realm of reason. But let's face it, the gym opens up at 5:30, closes at 8 p.m. We're open on Saturdays. A lot of gyms, and good for you, and rightfully so, in a lot of communities and a lot of areas like big cities are open on Sundays. So it's 7 days a week. It's 15-hour days Monday through Friday. Could be 10, 12-hour days on the weekends. If you're a health club style or an open gym style, a lot of those gyms are open from 5 in the morning till 10 p.m., right? That is a tough schedule to cover on the realm of humans. You need grit. You got to be fucking tough. You got to have, excuse my French, balls of steel. And there's no whining and crying about being tired, about life, about this boo-hoo shit. Okay, the reality is that everybody has circumstances. Every single member of our team member has had a bad family tragedy in the last 2 years. Every single member of this team member has been brutally sick, stomach bug, fires, flu, you name it. Half of our team members have families, have kids, right? They're sick on a regular basis. Your kid's got the flu. Dan's son had pneumonia. My son had an awful ear infection. You name it. Life is throwing curveballs and haymakers and trying to kick you in the dick every day. Okay? Suck it up. That does not, the circumstances in your life do not negate the responsibilities you have to your career, your job, your family. You have an obligation to earn. You have an obligation to grow, because whatever problems that you have, they're going to pass at some point, right? Literally and figuratively. Everybody's going to die. All problems fade away. And when you screw up or you negate your career, you negate your obligations to your team, it's hard to go backwards then. So if you get in the habit of quitting every time the going gets hard and you wave the white flag because you need time off or work-life balance and all this kind of crap when you're 25 years old, you could take that shit and stuff it. Okay, the best coaches, the most successful business people, right, have grit, and they show up every day regardless of the rain. I look at like guys like, and again, you don't have to be crazy wild. Like I look at like the guys like, David Goggins and Ken Rideout, guys that, Ken Rideout runs 10 miles every day, 7 days a week, rain, sleet, or snow. Nobody wants to do that shit. But if you do that shit for 2 or 3 years, you have an iron mindset. Part of the success that we've had at Varsity House is I got 4 dudes here and now growing to many more who just continue to show up every single day, regardless of the weather, figuratively and literally, the weather in their emotions, the weather outside, the weather in the economy, right? We do not let those types of thoughts into our head. We show up, control what you can control, A+ service, A+ coaching, A+ effort every single day. If you need to bitch, knock on my door. You can come in here all day and have a bitch fest, okay? But you get your ass back downstairs and do your job and do the best that you can. That's what it takes to be great.